The woods had been forbidden for as long as Janet could remember. Children were warned not to wander there. Travelers crossed themselves when passing its edge, and when the wind moved through the trees at dusk, people lowered their voices and hurried home before darkness settled beneath the branches. This is Simple Tales. Long ago, near the Scottish borders, there stood a woodland called Carterhaugh. It was a beautiful place. Clear streams ran beneath ancient trees. Wildflowers bloomed in hidden meadows. Deer moved quietly through the shadows, yet few people entered willingly. The people of the nearby villages believed the woods belonged to the fair folk, not the tiny winged creatures of children's stories, but the old fairies of ancient folklore. Beautiful, powerful, unpredictable, and somewhere within those woods lived a mysterious knight named Tam Lin. One autumn morning, a young noblewoman named Janet rode toward Carterhaugh. She had heard every warning. Stay away from the woods. Do not touch the flowers. Do not linger after sunset. Janet listened to the warnings. Then she ignored them. She was not reckless. She was simply curious. The world seemed full of rules created by frightened people, and she preferred seeing things for herself. When she reached a clearing deep within the forest, she found a rose growing beside a stream. Its petals glowed crimson against the green leaves. Janet reached down and plucked it. The moment the stem broke, a voice spoke behind her. "Why do you steal my rose?" Janet spun around. A young man stood among the trees. He wore the clothes of a knight, though they seemed strangely old-fashioned. His dark hair moved gently in the breeze, and his eyes carried a sadness that did not belong to someone so young. "I stole nothing," Janet replied. The rose was growing wild. The stranger smiled. "No one has spoken to me like that in many years." His name was Tam Lin. Janet returned to Carterhaugh again, and then again. As the weeks passed, the two spent long afternoons talking beside the stream. Tam Lin spoke little of himself. He knew the names of every tree in the forest. He knew songs no one else remembered. And sometimes, when he thought Janet wasn't looking, a shadow would pass across his face, a look of longing, a look of imprisonment. One evening, as autumn deepened and the first cold winds arrived, Janet finally asked him the question she had carried for months. "Who are you really?" For a long time, Tam Lin said nothing. Then he sighed. "I was once a mortal knight." He looked toward the darkening woods. "Years ago, I fell from my horse in this forest. The queen of the fairies found me before anyone else could." Janet listened silently. She carried me into her realm. Since then, I have lived among the fair folk. "Then why don't you leave?" A sad smile crossed his face. "Because it is not that simple." The forest seemed quieter than before. Even the birds had fallen silent. Tam Lin lowered his voice. Soon the fairy host will ride on Halloween night, and every 7 years the queen must surrender one soul. Janet felt a chill. You, Tam Lin nodded. I fear I am the one she has chosen. The words hung heavily between them. For the first time, Janet understood the sadness she had always seen in his eyes. Can you be saved? She asked. Yes. His answer came immediately. There is one chance. He explained what she must do. On Halloween night, she must wait at the crossroads where the fairy riders would pass. When she saw Tam Lin riding among them, she must pull him from his horse. Then she must hold him, no matter what happened. No matter what she saw. No matter what he became. The fairies will try to frighten you, he warned. They will change my shape again and again. Janet met his gaze. And if I refuse to let go, then I will be free. Halloween arrived. The night was cold. Clouds drifted across the moon. Janet stood alone at the crossroads, wrapped in a green mantle. The fields around her were silent. Then she heard it. Distant bells. Hoofbeats. Music unlike anything played by human hands. The fairy host was coming. A river of riders emerged from the darkness. Silver bridles flashed beneath the moonlight. Their cloaks moved like mist. Their horses made scarcely a sound upon the earth. Janet's heart pounded. Then she saw him. Tam Lin rode among them on a white horse. As he passed, Janet leaped forward and seized him. The horse vanished beneath her hands. Tam Lin fell into her arms. Instantly, the enchantment began. His body twisted. A great snake coiled around her shoulders. Janet held on. The snake became a snarling wolf. She held on. The wolf became a burning iron bar, hot enough to scorch her skin. Still, she refused to release him. The fairy riders circled around her. Voices whispered through the darkness. Threats, promises, lies. Janet ignored them all. The burning iron changed again. A roaring lion, a writhing serpent, a blazing coal. Each transformation was more terrifying than the last. Yet, Janet remembered only one thing. Hold on, no matter what. At last the transformations ceased. A man stood before her, weak, exhausted, human. Quickly, Janet wrapped her green mantle around his shoulders. The fairy host fell silent. The queen of the fairies rode forward. Moonlight gleamed upon her pale face. For a moment she looked at Tam Lin, then at Janet. There was anger in her eyes, but also something else. Respect. You have won him, she said quietly. The queen turned her horse. Without another word, the fairy riders disappeared into the darkness. The bells faded. The hoofbeats vanished. And the night became still once more. When dawn arrived, Janet and Tam Lin walked out of Carterhaugh together. The enchantment was broken. The years of captivity had ended. And though the old stories say the fair folk never entirely forget what was once theirs. They never came for Tam Lin again. For centuries, the people of Scotland told this tale beside winter fires. Not because it was a story about fairies, but because it was a story about courage. Janet was not the strongest person in the story. She did not possess magic. She carried no sword, yet she faced an entire supernatural kingdom and refused to surrender the person she loved. Sometimes bravery is not defeating a monster. Sometimes bravery is simply holding on when every force around you demands that you let go. And perhaps that is why the story endures. Because all of us, sooner or later, find ourselves standing at a crossroads in the dark, holding tightly to something precious, hoping our courage will be enough until morning comes. If this story stayed with you a like and a share, help more listeners discover these timeless tales. And if you'd like to journey through more myths, legends, and folklore from around the world, subscribe to Simple Tales. Thank you for listening. Until the next one.